What if the Little Mermaid, Ariel, was a siren? This is FanScription. The famed Disney Renaissance kicked off in 1989 with the true classic, The Little Mermaid. Adapted from the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, it put animated Disney films back on track, and its massive success led to more all-timers like Beauty and the Beast and Mulan. Going back to watch it after all these years revealed just how impressive the animation, songs, and characters were. You can see why this style was predominant throughout the 90s and became a calling card for the House of Mouse. We all know the live-action remake is on the horizon, and with the mixed at best track record of these films, I'm hoping it offers something new while staying true to why the cartoon worked. Of course, Disney would never stray too far from their vision of the story. That's why I'm here. You're not going to get the safe option on FanScription, no sir. We're going to twist Ariel's story into something much darker. The original fairy tale certainly has its darker themes, but this is going to be something different. I hope you enjoy our journey to this particular Disney ElseWorld, where the Little Mermaid is not what she seems. We fade in on the open sea, waves rolling by. Through the foggy atmosphere, a ship emerges. A pensive young man stands on the deck, overlooking the rhythmic waves. In the distance, he catches a glimpse of something poking out of the water. The fog conceals the details, but it seems to be in the shape of a person. Before he can get a good look, another cloud of fog moves in and obstructs his view. Thinking it was a trick of the eye, he ignores the sighting. But a moment later, he watches as a woman slowly rises out of the reflective blue surface. She's close to the ship now and locks eyes with the seafarer. Instantly, there's a connection. Wonderment, curiosity, admiration. The woman is gorgeous, and the man can't take his eyes off her. He's so entranced by her beauty that he almost falls off the deck, catching himself before plummeting into the water. This makes the woman laugh, and they share a smile.
Prince Frederick.
Startled, the man looks behind him to see an older gentleman concerned for his safety.
Are you all right, sir?
The prince peers back to the water. Only a faint ripple remains at the woman's location. Mesmerized, his eyes thirst for another vision of the stunning creature. Over the course of the next few months, we see the prince search for her at sea, and eventually, they meet again, quickly falling for each other. Prince Frederick is the monarch of the land just off the shore. His castle sits above the beach. The young woman is indeed a product of the sea, a resident of the Kingdom of Atlantica. Their unlikely love forms a bond as strong as the crashing waves and as deep as the ocean itself. For a time. After a while, their meetings become less frequent until Frederick stops showing up altogether, leaving the Atlantican with a crippling loneliness. She swims close to the shore one day and sees the prince being married to the princess of another kingdom. The ceremony takes place on the sand below the castle. Heartbroken, she swims off. Soon after, an anguished, now King Frederick calls for her on the sea at one of their old meeting places. The figure appears for him, hurt but hopeful for a reunion. A nostalgic expression changes to an apologetic one as the king lowers his eyes. Men surge forth on the deck beside him, attacking the ocean dweller. They throw spears and nets, firing guns and more in an attempt to capture or kill the creature. One of those nets does trap her, and she's aggressively pulled up the side of the ship like a prized haul. However, there's a tear in the rope, and she's able to rip it open just in time, escaping into the safe haven of the sea. The king's look of sympathy has not changed as he returns to the castle where his queen awaits. It's made obvious she made him do this, wanting any rival for her husband's affection to be snuffed out. Angry that the job wasn't done, she storms out of the room. Frederick gazes out a window to the sea, wallowing in the shame of his actions. We see the scorned lover swim back to her home, an underwater cave. Utterly devastated, the tears of her sobbing blend into the surrounding water as she throws a few items into a cauldron-like rock formation. She rubs the resulting substance over a cut on her face. Bit by bit, the creature's weeping gives way to a furious snarl, filled with the intent of revenge. The king has betrayed the sea witch, Ursula. Across the black screen, text fades in, reading, "Many years later." From here, we get a lot of the original movie, with a few changes. Ariel, King Triton, Sebastian, Flounder, Scuttle, they're all pretty much the same characters. Ariel dreams of exploring the surface world, while her father forbids it. Ursula is reintroduced only in shadow as she watches Ariel through the eyes of her eels, Flotsam and Jetsam. It's mentioned that she was banished from Atlantica for constantly trying to start a war with the surface dwellers, and she has a grudge against Triton because of it. Ariel's obsession with what lies above the ocean may help Ursula on multiple fronts. Instead of seeing him for the first time on his ship the night of the storm, it's established that Ariel has been familiar with Prince Eric for quite a while. She's admired him from afar and is sick with puppy love. Ariel is desperate to approach him, but is petrified at the thought of being rejected because of what she is. As in the film, Triton discovers her infatuation with the prince and destroys her grotto in hopes of dissuading his daughter from having anything to do with the surface world. Because of this, Flotsam and Jetsam are able to convince Ariel to ask Ursula for help. That scene starts our real changes. Ursula is fully revealed for the first time here. What she used to be at the beginning of the film is barely recognizable, swallowed up by hatred that expands from the emotional to the physical. The deal between the mermaid and the sea witch is very different. Ursula offers to give Ariel the means to attract any surface man, including her desired prince. She'll be irresistible to him. In exchange, Ariel must agree to carry out a favor for the witch down the road. The mermaid agrees and signs the contract during the Poor Unfortunate Soul song. Ursula conjures up a spell and bestows upon the teenager an even more enhanced voice. She tells Ariel to find her man and sing her little heart out when the tide is at its highest. The spell will do the rest. Excited, Ariel leaves as the witch mentions to her eels to always read the fine print and starts laughing maniacally. That night, a similar scene to the one in the movie starts to play out. Prince Eric and his crew, minus Grimsby, are celebrating his birthday out at sea. He's given the statue as a gift and they carry on with the music and dancing. With the tide just about at its highest, Ariel rises above the water. She sees Eric and is almost short of breath with anticipation. After gathering herself, she takes a deep breath and begins singing. The hypnotizing tones first catch the attention of the prince. He looks out to see Ariel in the water and goes into a trance, enchanted by her angelic voice. Soon, all the other men on board do the same. An eerie mood fills the air as Ariel's singing and the lapping of waves are all that's heard. Beguiled, Eric steps off the ship and lands in the water in front of Ariel. Soon, his whole crew does the same. From Eric's point of view, we see Ariel's face as he swims back above the water. The mermaid's beautiful smile leads to her singing softly trailing off while she moves closer for a kiss. Ariel's face twists into that of a monster. Her body morphs into a beast-like form, and she screams demonically in Eric's face. The high-pitched wail causes the crew to grab their ears and sink into the ocean. Eric still floats in front of Ariel, frozen with fear. In a flash, she tackles him under the water as bubbles violently reach the surface before completely stopping. The whole ocean seems to go calm for a moment before lightning strikes in the background. A powerful storm approaches the empty ship. Another lightning strike transitions us to the next day. Grimsby has been worried sick since Prince Eric's vessel failed to return last night. He's readying a search party when through thick mist, the ship comes into view and finally arrives back home. Noticing it's heavily damaged, Grimsby rushes aboard to see one man, a lone survivor, sickly and injured, is the only crew member left. As Grimsby and the guards approach the man, he starts blurting out hysterical exclamations, screaming of a demon from the water who attacked him, drowned the whole crew, and pulled Eric under.
She was the devil, I tell you! Those eyes! That voice! Screaming! I can still hear it! A monster up from Davy Jones' locker! She pulled the prince down to hell itself!
The guards try to calm the man down, but it's an impossible task. Grimsby is shocked by the outburst, yet he seems to almost recognize the man's description. Pushing down his feelings of dread, he grabs one of the guards by the arm.
Send for the king.
After cutting to black, we see a first-person view of eyes opening. What comes into focus is a both beautiful and frightening cavern. Calm water below reflects multiple colors in the dimly lit space. Eric begins coughing and expels water from his lungs. His hands and feet are outstretched, restrained by sea rocks that seem to have hardened around his wrists and ankles. He's trapped.
I'm sorry.
The prince snaps his head toward the sound. In the water below him, Ariel is trapped in a crude cage. Everything except her head and shoulders are submerged in the shallow pool. She goes on to explain that she wasn't in control of her actions the previous night. The witch's curse is too strong to resist. When the tide is at its highest, she changes into something awful. Confused and disoriented, Eric asks where they are. Ursula interrupts.
Far from home, I'm afraid.
Ursula climbs up to Eric and looks deep into his horrified blue eyes.
Same eyes, different hair.
Ursula recites her history with Eric's family. The prince's grandfather was the man in the prologue. He betrayed her long ago and very nearly killed her in the process, all just because she loved him. The Sea Witch's plan for revenge started with Triton's daughter and continues with Eric. She needs the blood of both a surface king and sea king to pull off her plan. Luckily, royal blood runs through Eric and Ariel. Laughing as she does it, Ursula presses sea leeches to the helpless prisoner's skin. They begin to siphon blood while Eric and Ariel grunt in pain. We cut to a room inside Prince Eric's castle. The survival of the Siren attack sits alone, nervously waiting. He jumps as the door swings open, revealing the shadow of a burly figure lined by bright yellow light. The figure steps into view. He's an older man with more salt than pepper in his beard. His presence is an intimidating one, standing over 6 feet tall with a ship captain's outfit on. Everything about him, from his glances to his movements, command respect. The same eyes as his son stare out of a sea-weathered face. This is King Victor. The sailor instantly bows upon seeing His Majesty, but Victor tells him not to waste time on sycophantic formalities. His son's life hangs in the balance. The sailor describes what he saw that night and recounts as many details as he can remember. The king responds by telling a warped version of the prologue's events, distorted by lies and time. He says a similar beast from the sea attacked his mother and tried to take her place as queen. Victor's father was under the creature's spell, and even after the sea beast was chased off, her effects on him lasted the rest of his days. He led a life of regret that Victor could never understand. He wasn't even sure the story was true, but hearing the surviving sailor relate his story has the king thinking the beast is back to attack his family. For reasons he can't explain, Victor feels like Eric is still alive. If he is still hanging on somehow, they'll draw the beast out and extract him by force. If the prince is already gone, vengeance will be taken. The king then yells for Grimsby to prepare a search party and leaves the room with purpose. Under the sea, Ursula mixes the leeches containing Eric and Ariel's blood into her cauldron with other materials. Flashes of unnatural light fill her home as the potion is complete. She first gives a couple drops to Flotsam and Jetsam, who wildly transform, growing legs and changing into monstrous beings. Ursula is elated that her potion worked. The concoction gives sea creatures the ability to walk on land while still maintaining their aquatic features. She begins to spread it all over her garden of damned merpeople, who mutate in shadow. Smiling from ear to ear, she tells her former eels to release the secret weapon and begin Phase 2 of her plan. In Atlantica, King Triton and his daughters have begun to worry about Ariel. She's been missing for a long while, and searches for her have turned up nothing. One of Triton's scouts exhaustedly swims back to the throne, where he speaks of an attack happening above the surface. Perhaps more pertinent is the fact that he saw Ariel caught in the middle of it. Triton's eyes widen, and he swims off without even waiting for his guard. The king bursts through the water to see a battle transpiring. A ship captained by King Victor is clashing with merpeople. It's far enough in the distance that he can't see every detail, but he does spot Ariel's distinct red hair. He tries to swim toward her, but an explosion, seemingly sent from the vessel, envelops him, and he flies back, injured. We cut to the middle of the battle, where Ariel is in her Siren form, screeching at the ship with Ursula's morphed soldiers. Victor and his men have stuffed their ears with wool, blocking out her voice. They only lose 2 or 3 sailors in the fight as they capture Ariel, fend off the sea creatures, and leave to regroup on land. A few moments later, King Triton slowly awakens to see the aftermath. He pushes off his guards as he painfully swims toward the area of incident. Debris is scattered in the water. Several dead merpeople float on the surface, transformed back to their original state upon death. Agony fills Triton's face when he discovers a sea flower gliding amongst the wreckage. It's the same one Ariel was wearing in her hair the last time he saw her. Tears follow, but they're quickly replaced with a furrowed brow and angry frown. Triton and his guards return to Atlantica, where Ursula and the transformed Flotsam and Jetsam wait at the outskirts of the city. Ursula says she knows the humans have abducted Ariel and wants to help. Half ignoring her, Triton swims past. The Sea Witch yells that she has a guaranteed way for the king to walk right up to that castle and take his daughter back. Triton turns around and notices the mutated eels. Ursula motions to their legs. At her lair, Ursula explains that after years of trial and error, she's cracked the code on giving merpeople the ability to walk on land. All they have to do is drink her new potion, and Triton and his army can attack the humans on their turf for a change. The only catch is lifting Ursula's banishment and admitting her back into Atlantica. Sebastian protests this plan. However, thinking rashly because of what's just happened to his daughter, the king considers it. Remember now, Triton's wife, Athena, was killed by humans. This was shown in the prequel movie Ariel's Beginning, and it can be mentioned here by Ursula to push the king over the edge. Triton's been vehemently against his daughter having anything to do with the surface, and now seeing that she's been captured by those same people has his heart filled with rage. He doesn't just want to save Ariel, he wants to take the whole kingdom down once and for all. With his power over the ocean, a tidal wave could easily wipe out the castle, but with Ariel there, he can't take the risk of hurting her. Triton doesn't see another way. While he doesn't trust Ursula, he trusts her hatred for humans and orders his guards to take the potion with him. Back at King Victor's castle, Ariel, back in her mermaid form, is kept in a small wooden water tank. She's approached by Victor and aggressively interrogated about his son. She says Eric's alive, but the cavern the prince is being kept in can't be reached by humans. Ariel is willing to help, but the king wants no part of it. He requests the location again, this time threatening to cook her up and serve her to his guards. He leans in close to a terror-stricken Ariel when horns are heard in the background, the warning of a fierce storm approaching. Victor looks up with concern and quickly leaves the room. The king arrives at the top of his castle, looking down with his guards. The sky has turned black, and the water is acting strangely. It swirls around in unnatural waves until humanoid shapes are revealed walking toward the shore. On closer inspection, they see that the nearing figures are the same type of creatures they fought off in the sea earlier. They're led by a mutated King Triton. On his new legs, he walks forward with a foreboding menace. His eyes, along with the rest of the transformed merpeople, are glowing red. Oddly missing are his crown and trident. They reach the beach and suddenly stop. Victor gives the order to ready his troops, as he shows no signs of bargaining with the Atlantean army, yelling that they will not release their prisoner unless his son is brought back to him. Triton and his forces give no response, and bubbles begin forming behind them. The ocean vibrates, and large ripples flow to the beach. Out of the water rises a giant Ursula. She cackles with glee, now wearing Triton's crown and wielding his trident. She moves the trident forward and screams in her booming voice.
Attack!
Triton and his army rush forward. They climb, scratch, and claw their way up the cliff to reach the castle. Victor immediately commands his men to counter, and the two sides engage in all-out war. It's made clear at this point that Ursula has complete control of Triton and everyone who drank her potion. Her plan is coming to fruition as she asserts dominance over the seas and uses one enemy to destroy another. It's the ultimate power play. Ursula manipulated the former king of the seas and utilizes him to finally decimate everything Frederick held dear: his son, his people, his entire kingdom. King Victor's army is outmatched from the start. They don't go down easy, but it's not long before Triton infiltrates the castle and starts demolishing everything. Because of the witch's power over him, Ariel is not even a thought in her father's mind. She's helpless in her tank and starting to feel the pain of another transformation. It's almost high tide again. She starts to panic when water blasts through a wall and drags her outside. She falls to the beach below and is washed into shallow water. From there, the mermaid looks up to see the castle has been massacred. The land dwellers are laid out every which way, not a surviving man among them, except King Victor. Triton is carrying the bleeding monarch out to sea, not too far from where Ariel is.
Father!
Triton looks his daughter's way, but ignores her and paces ahead. Ariel is in excruciating pain now. She holds her abdomen and dives into the ocean. Triton hands Victor to the giant sea witch, who starts crushing him in her fist.
So, this is the product of Frederick and that revolting wife of his. You've got more guts than your old man, I'll give you that.
Victor curses Ursula for her perceived sins against his family and demands that his son be released to him.
He's not going anywhere, and neither are you.
Ariel is trying her best to stave off her Siren transformation as she swims forward with all her might. She pops up in the cavern where Eric is kept prisoner and attempts to break him out. She smashes rocks against the restraints on his feet, but the magic binding holds steadfast. Eric, groggy from his ordeal, tells her to stop. There's no way out. Ariel emotionally apologizes for her part in putting him there. She's a complete wreck from all that's been going on, and unexpectedly professes her love for him. The prince stares at her for a moment, before his face changes to disgust. How could he ever love her, he asks. He calls her a sickening, ugly monster that killed his friends and is to blame for everything. The words cut like a knife. Ariel tears up before her Siren side finally takes over. She transforms in front of Eric and screeches in his face. However, there is a glimmer of restraint. Instead of attacking the prince, the Siren pulls herself away and jumps back underwater, disappearing into the depths of the ocean. Back up top, Ursula mocks and laughs at the insignificance of King Victor. She stops suddenly and tilts her head in an uncanny way. It's as if she just noticed something.
Huh. Same eyes, different smell.
Ursula quickly opens her gargantuan mouth and pulls her hand toward it. Victor screams an inhuman shriek as the sea witch chomps down, chews twice, and swallows. An evil, echoing guffaw expands into the air and makes the ocean quiver. We see a shot from further back. Ursula towers over the obliterated castle, her revenge complete. We dissolve to days later. Atlantica is now under the total control of Queen Ursula. She sits the throne, consuming live shrimps as Sebastian stands close by, her reluctant advisor. At her other side is the former King Triton. Still under her control in his mutated state, Triton acts as her mindless enforcer. Flotsam and Jetsam also stand near the throne. The queen seems a bit bored before devouring another shrimp and speaking to Sebastian.
Take over Atlantica? Check. Destroy and humiliate my enemies? Check. Oh, what else is there to do, little crab? We're all going to grow algae sitting around here. That won't do. No. No, I think it's time for a rapid expansion, don't you? Queen Ursula, feared ruler, powerful sorceress, kingdom conqueror. It does have a nice ring to it, doesn't it, big man?
Triton stands stone-faced as Ursula's laugh is heard all over Atlantica, where the residents of the kingdom live in fear of her reign. Fading to black, we start to hear waves lightly tapping a wooden deck. When the image is revealed, we see a handful of men working alone in the quiet night. They're loading a boat with boxes and are bundled for the cold weather. A fog so dense hangs over the water, it looks as if it could fall right into the drink. The men look out into the misty inlet and see a silhouette come into view. It features a familiar figure as the moonlight shines down to outline its shape. The men of Arendelle become transfixed on the voice, and we cut to black.